Cuomo has made it a decree, and we're going to watch it.
Over the 4th of July weekend alone, there were 13 shootings in the city of Buffalo. 21 people were hurt, including a 3-year-old child. But the problem is bigger than just Buffalo. Today, the governor declared a disaster emergency on gun violence. 2 on Your Side's Jackie Roberts joins us now live from the newsroom with more on that. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, Mary Alice. Yeah, the governor says the declaration allows the state to give the gun violence crisis the full attention and resources it deserves. While some agree with this approach, other officials locally argue there's more to the story. During a news conference, Buffalo Police Captain Jeff Ronaldo emphasized that this level of violence affects all of us.
Nobody, I don't care what part of the city you live in, should have to live in daily fear of these shootings. So we have to put an end to this.
And on the heels of 4th of July weekend, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced a, quote, first of its kind executive order to prevent further gun violence in New York State.
It is a statewide problem, and it is an emergency.
These are a few ways the governor wants to address the problem. For example, deploying a public health approach to gun violence, getting illegal guns off the streets, and strengthening the police-community relationship.
I think it's going to be effective, and it's something that is needed. It's timely.
Attorney John Elmore, who's a former New York State trooper and former prosecutor, offered legal analysis. He stressed the importance of federal, state, and local agencies working together to go after illegal gun dealers.
So it looks to me like it's going to be a comprehensive approach to go after the generators of the gun, the traffickers of the guns, and to also try to solve the problems that are causing some of the youth to get involved in gang and violent behaviors.
But there are some differences of opinion as to whether or not the governor's approach will work and what led to the spike in gun violence in the first place.
It's very troubling, but it was predicted.
State Senator Pat Gallivan, who's a former Erie County sheriff and New York State trooper, also responded to the governor's comments.
Some of the things that the governor is saying are things that are not new that we need to address. But I think the single biggest problem is the relaxation of the criminal justice policies in New York State. We have policies that favor offenders, and there's a sense of lawlessness running around out on the street where individuals perpetrating these crimes and these shootings have absolutely no fear of being held accountable for their actions.
Captain Ronaldo also pointed to the bail reform and the lack of consequences for offenders and even repeat offenders in response to the spike in shootings in the city of Buffalo. And on top of the declaration, the governor signed 2 pieces of legislation in an effort to combat gun violence. We'll have more information on that on our website, WGRZ.com. Mary Alice.
Thank you, Jackie.
So this is what happens when you're a Republican that hates guns, because that's what Andrew Cuomo is. This man has not done any research on like wealth inequality, poverty, none of that. What pisses me, oh my God, this pisses me off. I'm pro-gun too, so of course this is gonna piss me off. But it's not his. I mean, well, yeah, it is his authoritarianism that's pissing me off. But what's really pissing me off is his lack of self-awareness in the reality of things. This man is doing the typical gun control advocate ideology where if you get more guns off the street, then that'll be less crime, instead of just going to the root of the problem. He just wants to deal with something that's not going to change anything whatsoever. Now, for all of my New Yorkers out there, I'm sure you're aware of the SAFE Act. Now, the SAFE Act is basically every Democrat's wet dream. Any regulation, you can think about it. You have to have like 7 rounds. You have to have certain attachments. And if it's a certain gun, you can't have an attachment with it. Oh my God. You have to have your gun in your case in your car. So, if you're getting shot at, you better. Oh, and it can't be loaded either. So you have to have it in your case, and it can't be loaded. There's just so many outrageous. I'm going to put a link in the description below about the SAFE Act. Basically, the SAFE Act turned law-abiding citizens criminals overnight. He wants to talk about crime. I can only imagine all the people within New York that have become felons due to his SAFE Act. So New York State, I live in one of the most liberal states in the country. So that is why he is reacting. That's why everybody is reacting the way they are to all these shootings. You guys understand there is a depression and a pandemic going on, right? But no, no. The way we combat gun violence is by making more gun laws that didn't even work to begin with and putting more innocent people in jail. You want to know what else is probably a determining factor in the crime in New York State? Probably the war on drugs. Probably Andrew Cuomo not doing anything about that. Probably him not. He's not a leftist, so all of his policies are basically right wing, center right, if at best. I haven't seen him fight for any healthcare reform. I haven't seen him fight. I mean, maybe I can give him credit on some education stuff. He's not going far enough. He's not fighting for a living wage. We just passed a law in New York that lets fast food people get $15 an hour. But these are the type of things that uplift poverty. Economic security uplifts poverty. We have data from like the EPI saying that, yeah, when you give people livable wages, you uplift poverty. It turns out when you give people education, the literacy rates go up. So this is a joke. This is a joke, and it's an attack on gun rights in this country once again, because it's not like we haven't lost that enough as it is, but it's just a joke, man. And it's hard for me to believe that somebody like Andrew Cuomo, who's been around for decades, has no understanding of how to combat poverty, wealth inequality, and gun violence. The only way you're going to be able to combat gun violence, the only way you'll ever be able to do something like that is through left-wing policies. A livable wage, education, giving people housing, giving people basic needs, just social democratic and to the left of that reform. But that's never going to happen. This is just virtue signaling and just him acting like a liberal. Like, people wouldn't be shooting each other if they had a job. Right now everybody's bitching about all these places that are hiring and nobody wants to work. But they're not bitching at the people who aren't paying a decent wage for people to come back to work. They're not bitching at the people who aren't providing health care. The invisible hand has been very, very bad the past year. So, if you want people to come back to work, why don't you, give them a reason to come back to work? Why can't you compete with the government? If the invisible hand and capitalism is so great, why can't you just compete with the government on these $400 checks? They'll think of anything. It's the state's fault. How? But man, I'm getting so sick of this. I'm getting so sick of. There's nothing ever good going on in New York. The only thing that's going good right now is India freaking Walton, and even that can be lost this November. But Cuomo's a joke. Cuomo's a joke, and I really have no idea, completely no idea, how he's managed to not have to resign, if not get impeached, for all the crazy things he's been doing the past year. I mean, just the scandal with the long-term facilities should have been enough. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. So, this is ridiculous. The only way you're going to combat gun violence, crime, is through left-wing policies. Making sure people have livable income, making sure people have opportunity, and making sure people have resources. And quite frankly, Cuomo has no solution. Cuomo isn't going to give you a solution. And needless to say, this is most likely just a reason for him to make more gun control. If your whole solution to gun violence and crime and all that good stuff is just more gun control, you haven't learned a goddamn thing. Sure, gun control does work. Clearly it can work. But do you want it to work? Do you really want innocent people scared? I think that everybody should own a gun. But, that's not always going to be the main defactor of things. You're not just going to solve that by just giving people guns. It's a great tool to have, especially when you're caught at the wrong day. But that's not the only way to go forward. Like, I hate libertarians who always use, all you have to do is just unrestrict gun laws, uplift gun regulations, and we'll be fine. No, we're not going to be fine. That's not how you solve gun violence. That's not how you solve crime. You have to go above and beyond. And I get it. You don't want to contribute to society and pay taxes. That's tough shit. We live in a democracy, okay? You don't want to pay your taxes, then move to Somalia so you can see where decentralized capitalism really works. But there's no more excuses for this. We no longer can wait for the invisible hand or for free market solutions. We need to act now. We need to use direct action. And we need to elect people that are actually going to give a damn about the American people or the people within their local or state government. Because Cuomo doesn't give a shit. He really doesn't. He's just using this. I know he is. Because he has been around for way too long in the most liberal country in the world to not know that left-wing policies are the only way to uplift things like this. So, time to cancel Cuomo. And it's time to get your head out of your asses and do some research, because if that's your solution, then we have a serious problem.